What's up everybody, my name is Zach and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be walking you guys through all of my recent reads that haven't been in other videos, what I'm currently reading, and then kind of how I'm feeling about reading and reading goals going into the fall. So thank you so much for clicking on this video, and that's what I'm going to be covering in today's video. I would love to know in the comments, like, if you want to answer the same questions, like some recent reads that you've read that you maybe liked, what you're planning to read in the fall maybe, if you haven't answered that in another video already, maybe what some of your reading goals are. I would just love to hear from you and what your reading life is looking like. So let's just get right into the video. What kind of cued me to make this video is that I've been doing a lot of themed videos, like reading all the books from a certain author, or like themed reading vlogs, or like the series I did of What the Bleep Did I Just Read, like a lot of really planned out things. But in between those planned out things, I always allow myself to mood read a little bit and just pick up, you know, whatever I want. So I have been doing that as well, and I wanted to kind of update you guys on what I've been reading in between videos. So some of these books are on here because they were part of videos that I had planned, and then I decided not to do that video for whatever reason, or like I said, they were part of mood reading and just picking up books. So some of them I have physical copies of, some I don't, so I'll just put the covers on the screen for the ones that I don't have physical copies of. The first book that I want to tell you guys about is called Together We Rot. This is a YA book that is classified as YA horror and like YA magical realism. It also falls under YA romance, which, like, yes, but I'll talk about more of that in just a second. So very special thank you to Penguin Random House Audio for providing me with an audio copy of this book for review. So I actually got the opportunity to listen to the audiobook, and I got to listen to it early. I believe it is out now. I guess I should check that. So Together We Rot releases on August 29th. Alright, so overall, this book was really good. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars, and it's definitely a book that I will never forget. I don't think I've ever read a book like it. I've read books, YA and adult, that touch on the topics that are written in this book, but the way that the author crafted this story, and particularly the ending, into something so beautiful and unique, like, now that I'm reflecting on it, maybe it was a 5-star because I've never read anything like it before, and it will stick with me forever. So this is the story about 2 young people. It's YA. They're like, I think they're actually 18, but they're either 17 or 18. They're still in high school, but they're at the end of their high school. Like, it's either the summer after, or it doesn't matter. It's they're ending their high school career, so they're like upper YA. And they live in a very small town where the main male character, his dad is the leader of a cult, a religious cult that is very, very extreme. And it talks a lot about the Bible and like quotes from the Bible that led them to this cult. Like, I believe even if you are a religious person, you could still enjoy this book. If you're like super sensitive to biblical quotes and the way that they could be used in a novel, then maybe skip this one. But it does reflect how like people can take biblical quotes and use those to build cults. And so this young boy has grown up in this cult, and he's been oppressed by his father, and like it definitely shows throughout the story about how he recognizes part of how he's been brainwashed, and then in other ways he doesn't. Like, he goes to a party, like he sneaks out to that party, and he's very stressed and very anxious about that the whole time. It does a really good job of showing how you can be brainwashed in a cult and think that you're doing the right thing when really everyone else around you can see that you're not. And then the other perspective is the female main character, and her mom went missing a few years ago after she like kind of joined this cult, or like kind of fell into the cult. And her dad have kind of been looking for her mom since, but haven't gotten any real good answers. She firmly believes that her mom was either killed by the cult or joined the cult and went off somewhere. Like, she knows that whatever happened to her mom is linked to this cult. So there's this young girl and this young boy, and they go to school together, and their paths are kind of crossing because of this cult in this town, and how they've both been impacted by it. And that's all I'm going to tell you about the setup, but I will say, like, it dips into magical realism and dips into horror as an explanation of some of these traumas that these young people are experiencing. I found it really beautiful, and particularly, like, the more I think about the ending, the more I'm like, wow, maybe I should buy a copy of this and reread it, which I'm in that era of reading right now. So I'm like, maybe I should reread it and buy a copy of it, because I really did enjoy it, and there's nothing else like it. YA, I'm enjoying less and less, and for this to really stand out and for me to still feel that way, maybe I should give it 5 stars. So that is Together We Rot. It releases on August 29th, and I really recommend it. And the audio is pretty good, like really good, if you want to check it out that way. Okay, to follow this one up with another popular book that has since released, it is None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell. This is a thriller that was very hyped for me. Like, I had seen some early reviews and people being like, yeah, it's really good. Like, this is Lisa Jewell at her finest. I had never read a Lisa Jewell book before, so I didn't really know what to expect going in. It seems like from what I've read, the premise of some of Lisa Jewell's other books, it seems like this one is a little bit different from her other ones, and maybe that's why people really enjoyed it. I also will say that it dips into parts of thrillers that really I don't see a lot of things. Like, it seems like she was trying to do something a little bit different while also incorporating pop culture and media. So basically, this is the story of two people, Josie and Alex, or Alexis. Is it Alex or Alexis? I don't know. Alex, yeah. So this is the story of two people, Josie and Alex, and Alex has a podcast. And in listening to the audiobook, I did find myself getting confused between who is Alex and who is Josie, because they have very similar lives. So these two people meet on their 45th birthday and are in this like bar, and they come across each other, I think in like the bathroom, and they hear each other talking, and they're like, oh, it's also your birthday. Oh, cool. We have the same birthday. We're birthday twins. And that is going to come in and to play in a second. But they discover they're birthday twins, and so they kind of spark up this interesting friendship. And one of them, I believe it was Alex, has a podcast. And Alex's husband is struggling with addiction. Her life is kind of falling apart in other regards, kind of outside of the podcast and outside of her friendships. But she's not very open about her life falling apart. So this podcast that she does is a podcast about like battered women who have been through domestic abuse situations, women who are survivors of assault and various other things. And she kind of does this podcast to get the word out and help people connect through those things. And then Josie, on the other side of this, is the other birthday twin. She is currently going through like really traumatic experience and traumatic marriage. She doesn't realize how traumatic it is at the time, but you find this out very early on. She was groomed by her husband. So when she was 14, he was 30, and they met and ended up getting married. And it talks a lot about the grooming process and how she was groomed. So just warning about that going into the book. That again happens very early on, is not a spoiler. And so the rest of the book kind of takes off from there about like, you can always feel that. So Josie ends up being on Alex's podcast, and their lives kind of get intertwined from there. And you always have this feeling that like the shoe is about to drop or the ball is about to drop or whatever. Cause like, you know that there's something Lisa Jewell is not telling you, but you don't know what it is. And the production of the audio is so good. I don't think I would have finished the book if I had read it physically. I did end up giving it 3 stars just because I felt kind of bored throughout, and then I lost interest. And I really loved the premise of this. It has a lot of mixed media. So there's the podcast element. There's them outside of them filming the podcast of their own lives. And then you know that there was a Netflix documentary that was made after their whole involvement together. The Netflix documentary is called Hi, I'm Your Birthday Twin. And so we get some snippets of like the Netflix documentary, we get some snippets of the podcast, and then snippets of their time together and their time in the past. And all of those things together made for like a whirlwind of an interesting story, but in some ways it fell flat for me. I don't really know how to describe why that happened. It just didn't hit. And that's why I'll give it 3 stars, is because it wasn't bad. It also wasn't great, and it was kind of forgettable. I love mixed media a lot. And so I really wish that it would have capitalized on that more. But I also want you to recognize that I am in the like lower percent of people who feel that way. Like, most people really enjoyed this book. So if you like the way I've described it, or you like the elements that are in it, then this could be for you. And I would recommend that you pick it up. And if you can in any way get the audio, it is a full cast performance and it is done really, really well. Okay, so the next book that I want to touch on was a video series idea. And I will say that I am going to talk about some political topics, which I don't typically do on my channel. I am not going to talk very long about them, and I don't wish to talk about them further, because I try very hard to separate my channel from political things, from author drama and that sort of things. Those things are important, and you should research authors, and you should know like what you're reading and make sure what you're reading is right for you. And if you choose to not read certain authors, like that is up for you to decide. And I think that we have gotten very intertwined between booktube and politics, and I just try very hard to keep my channel separate from those things for me and my mental health personally. But I find this next topic hard to talk about without doing that. So I read Great and Precious Things by Rebecca Yarros. I've also read Fourth Wing recently, and I really enjoyed Fourth Wing. And what came of reading Fourth Wing was like, Rebecca Yarros has a new book coming out in August. At this point, I've forgotten the name of it, but I knew that book was coming out. I thought the premise was interesting, and I was like, oh, I could read Rebecca Yarros' books that are not Fourth Wing and are her just romance books, which have really great reviews on Goodreads, and see if I like them and make a video about that. That would be really fun. So I read Great and Precious Things, which is about a girl named Willow who has dated a guy named Sullivan, and he is killed in Afghanistan. He has a brother named Cam, and basically what happens is Cam and Sullivan were in Afghanistan fighting in the war, and Sullivan is killed, and Cam is blamed for his death. It's a pretty immature blame, really. It's just that, like, you find out more about it, but really, Cam was not responsible for Sullivan's death at all. But his family blames him, the people in his small town blame him, and he comes back from war and nobody wants anything to do with him. He was also, like, the bad boy growing up and nobody likes him, blah, blah, blah. To no surprise, you find out that he's actually a pretty genuine and nice guy, and is very misunderstood. When he comes back, his dad is suffering from early onset dementia or early onset Alzheimer's. I'm not sure which exactly it is. There are small differences between those two, but it is early onset memory difficulties. And Cam has another brother who didn't go off to Afghanistan, is surviving and has been taking care of his brother. And so it dives into a lot of family dynamics and Cam coming back into this situation and trying to help his family understand that he was not responsible for his brother's death, while also dealing with his aging father, he's aging, but also like the memory difficulties with his father and the complications of this like small town. And then we have Willow, who has always been in love with Cam, go figure, like Cam's whole life, but she never like really had an opportunity with him, always felt like Cam never liked her, and so she started dating Sullivan, Cam's brother, who she genuinely did like and genuinely did love. But then Sullivan has passed away and Cam has come back, which puts this interesting conflict. And I was like, oh, wow, that seems to really like get into the humanity aspect of relationships and complications of families and things like that. I really didn't have a problem with her dating. Again, this is not a spoiler. This is literally on the back of the book. I didn't have a problem with Cam and Willow's relationship after Sullivan had died. I thought it actually made sense. Like, she did really love Sullivan, but Cam was someone from the past that she had loved, and it just so happens that they're brothers. There were times where the conversations about that got kind of like iffy, and I'm like, oh, ethically, like whatever. We're humans and we don't always do things right. Like, love is messy, and I accept that. And so I actually found that to be a very interesting component of the book. What I really struggle with is military romance. Like, I live in the United States. The United States military has done some really terrible things over a really long time, and I don't know why I thought it would be good for me to read a military romance. I just like really disagree with a lot of the US military has done. I recognize that I have a lot of privileges living in the US and I have a lot of protection because of the military, but also they've done some really terrible things. And I just can't, it's really hard for me to weigh both of those things out at the same time. I also want to recognize that Rebecca Yarros is a military wife. So her whole like adult, and they've been together for a really long time. So even like adolescent years, I believe, and adult life has been her husband going away for the military. And so I'm sure she's been raising 6 kids while he has been in the military. And so I want to honor her perspective and like recognize that she's writing from that perspective and that's what she knows. And I would venture to say that in some ways, like, there is this like glamorous thing about the military and maybe she's been brainwashed a little bit. I don't know. It feels like really gross and dangerous to say something like that. But I just feel like my opinion and hers and my view of the military and hers are different because of our life circumstances and because like undoubtedly factually the US military is like not doing good things in the world. So I was like, oh, this feels crummy. And then her new book came out and the premise of it is just really crummy. And I can't read her military romance books anymore. I just decided not to pursue that whole video idea because I don't really want to talk about this. For me, it just didn't feel good and I didn't enjoy my time with it. I will say the book itself is like a pretty decent book. It was good. It gave me some feelings. I liked Willow and Cam and I thought it brought up some really interesting topics. I just can't, unfortunately. Okay, probably one of my favorite books that I've read recently is My Roommate is a Vampire. This was really, really good. I don't have a physical copy of it because it's not actually out yet. I will get it, I think, this next, like, Tuesday. It comes out Tuesday, but Amazon says it won't be here until Wednesday, and I'm like, okay, whatever. I did get an early copy from Penguin Random House Audio, so I was able to enjoy it on audio early. The audio is spectacular. This is a really, really, really good book. It's about a girl who's kind of down on her luck and needs a place to live, and she finds this really cheap listing about this guy who says, like, it's like $200 a month, and he's like, I just need someone to live with me and be a roommate, and I am gone. He's like, basically he was like, I am gone at night and I sleep during the day. And she's like, that's great because then we'll be there opposing times. And yeah, so you can see like kind of where the story is going. You don't really need any more setup about than that. But I can tell you that the main male is like adorable. I loved him so much. And because he's a vampire, he's lived for hundreds of years and he is having a really hard time. And you'll understand why. There is a little plot twist that I'm not going to give away, but there was an unexpected like, oh, there's a plot twist in a romance novel. That was cool. But he is having a really hard time adapting to technology. He doesn't understand like the TikTok and the email, and he signs every email like hell. It's just so funny because you have this person who's lived for a really long time who doesn't understand technology, and that combination just led to some really laughable moments, and I was like rolling. I loved this book. I'm very happy that I have a physical copy coming in the mail, and I will definitely read it again. I'll probably annotate it just because it truly made me laugh out loud. I loved both of the main characters. They had a lot of chemistry. I loved this. If I need to say anything else, it's just please read this book. It's hilarious and it's really unique and interesting, and it's a debut novel. I will definitely read something else by this author, and definitely one of my favorite romances of the year, hands down. Okay, so those are kind of some of the books that I've been reading recently. A lot of new release books, a book for a video, and then also I have read all of Alice Feeney's books now except for her newest release. I'm not going to comment on that just yet because I'm going to make an author spotlight video like looking at all of her books that she's released and the newest book, like Good Bad Girl, I believe it's called, and then I'm going to kind of like review all of those. So I have been reading all of Alice Feeney's books and I'm caught up except for the newest one, so that will be coming. So now let me catch up to speed on like what I've been reading and kind of what I'm thinking about reading goals in the rest of the year. So I am 100 pages into The Mistake. This is the Bookish Box off-campus edition of the book without the dust jacket on it. So yeah, I am 100 pages into it, and I am... I don't know how to feel about this. I'm also going to make a video about all of the off-campus books at a later date. I will just say that I'm not enjoying it, but I don't hate it. I'm having a hard time picking it back up because I find it cringy at times, and I think that I feel that way about Elle Kennedy's writing a lot. Basically, this is the story about a college hockey team. You probably know that because it's an off-campus series, and a girl who is a virgin, and I just really, really hate that trope. It feels like really icky and disgusting to talk about for me personally, but I find that Elle Kennedy actually handles it with like a humorous and, I don't know, engaging kind of way where you're not thinking about it too hard. It's definitely not revolving around purity culture. So yeah, I'm struggling to get through this one. I also don't hate it, and I find her writing like just lighthearted and kind of don't really have to think very much while I'm reading it, and so that kind of draws me to it a little bit, but overall, just not super impressed by it. A book I am super impressed with is Tomorrow, Tomorrow, and Tomorrow. My good friend Neve and I are reading this together very slowly over time, and we're starting to pick up the pace, so hopefully I'll finish it soon. I am annotating it. This book is in contender for one of my favorite books of the year so far. When I'm actually finished, I will do a review of some sort on it, or it'll definitely show up in my end of the year things unless something drastically changes. This is a book that I should not like. I should not like this book at all. It is basically a slice of life about two people from opposite sides of the tracks, if you know that saying. Basically, one kid is raised like very poor with like limited resources and limited family help, though you find out more about his family, and he shouldn't have had to grow up the way that he did, as most people who have to grow up that way should never have to. And then we have our other main character, the female, who I'm really bad with names, so I usually just am like this gender and this gendered character. But our main female character is growing up like in a whole different situation, and it takes you through time of how like they met as children and then how like things fell apart and they got reacquainted, and then it like slowly taking us through time as they work together to develop a video game. This book is genius though. The amount of commentary it has on like socioeconomic class, on building friendships, the mistakes that we make in friendships. There's also like an abusive relationship that is discussed. There's just so much commentary in this book. It has blown me away because not a lot is happening in the plot except for they're building this video game together, and that is like the center point. And I will say, if you don't love video games, I think you could still love this book and take away a lot of the main points that the author is trying to make. But if you are a video game lover, then it is even more like enjoyable. So I will say it definitely adds to that, because I know a lot of like the video game companies that they're talking about and the like editorial magazines about video games, etc. But this is like a profound novel that has like really kind of given me a lot of thought, and I'm really enjoying annotating it. So stay tuned. I'm about a third of the way through, so I will do a review of some sort when I'm done, but like, wow. All right, and the next book that I haven't actually started yet, but I'm going to be starting like today, I've already filmed the intro for a video that I'm doing about this book, and so you'll see about that in the future, and that is The Invisible Hour by Alice Hoffman. I haven't actually started it yet, so I don't have any updates for you except to tell you that is something that I'm going to be reading soon, and a video will be coming out soon about it, and I'm very excited for it. The way I wanted to end this video is just kind of talking about where my reading has been recently. I've already talked a little bit about that, but I found that I like planned out a whole bunch of videos and some worked out and some didn't. And then I've kind of fallen into this slump where I'm like, okay, I just want to read whatever I want to read and fit those into videos that I'm excited for and feel passionate about for filming. So I am off work and I'm just going to take a new look at like, what do I want to reshape and finagle and change as part of my reading to where it still feels fulfilling and my mood has shifted over time. So planning really far ahead does not work for me, and so I'm not going to do that as much. But there are so many books that I'm very excited for that I want to get to, that if for me I don't plan somewhat of a structure, that I will just fall all the way apart. So I'm trying to find that middle ground between filming with a structure of videos that I want to get out and I need to plan in order to do that, and I'm okay with that, and fitting in like how my mood might shift over the course of trying to get those videos out. So I am taking a good, nice, hard reset and look at my reading, and I'm going to lean into what feels right now, and those are the videos that you all will get. All right, thank you so much for watching this video. If you haven't already, subscribing to my channel helps me out a ton. A like on the video goes a long way, and I would love to hear from you in the comments. A very special thank you to the Mostly Ghostly crew who support my channel every month by joining the channel membership. We do an every other month book club read where we read a book together and discuss that. We have a separate section in the Discord where we hang out and chat, and we have monthly hangouts where we spend time together talking about life and books and just spending time together. So if that's something that you're interested in, you can click the join button, and it is a YouTube membership, very similar to Patreon, but just through YouTube, so that it's all together in one place. Made it easier for me. So very special thank you to the Mostly Ghostly crew for your extra support, and thank you to you for watching this video. I'll see you guys in the next one.
Sound hoodie season back around, no more summer bounce.